guys, what's going on? This is Christian with MES Fitness and Elite FTS. So in my article, vlog, down at the bottom of the comments section, Mark asked me to make another video regarding external rotation. And I've seen a few of Mark's videos and he's been struggling with how to initiate it and how to consistently do it throughout the movement, particularly in the squat. So if you haven't read any of the information I've put out about it already, you can go into my article section on Elite FTS, and I have a full article write-up with a video there. All of these kind of cues and everything are going to be like an addition onto that article that I already made. So a brief overview of what external rotation is. By definition, it is taking a joint that can do rotational movements and rotating that joint away from the midline of your body. So two joints in particular that can do it are the ball and hinge joint in your shoulder and your hip. Our hip is going to be our main area of focus when it comes to external rotation. So if you put your hand out and I tell you to externally rotate your arm, this motion, also called supination of your hand, if your whole arm twists, that movement should be coming from your shoulder, okay? A miscue that a lot of people interpret in a squat you'll hear is knees out. I'm going to kind of correlate that with the arm. If you have your arm out and I say elbows out and you do this, you have no rotation of your shoulder at all. And a lot of people misunderstand the cue of knees out in a squat, and all they're doing is pushing their knees to the right or to the left without rotating at the hip. That's the biggest issue that people have. So we are not trying to have our knees go out over our ankles. We actually want rotation of your hip joint, and the key to doing that is firing your glutes. The main issue that people have is when they start the hip hinge in a squat is they lose their ability to contract their glutes and keep that contracted throughout the whole movement. If you lose contraction in your glute, that is going to stop you from twisting open. If you put your leg out and squeeze your glute, it's not going to be this exaggerated, but you have to rotate from your hip a little bit. If you put your heel out on the floor like I have it and squeeze your glute and rotate out, you should not feel this movement coming from the knee. You should feel this movement coming from your glutes. So like we just talked about, you cannot have external rotation if you are not firing your glutes, specifically your glute med, which is a smaller portion of your glute on the lateral side of your glute and of your body. Okay, so when we are standing here and you squeeze your glutes, you should see your knees rotate out or twisting like a screwdriver into the floor. What I don't want to see is you should not be rolling your ankle. Your foot should be able to stay flat on the floor, squeeze your glute, and rotate out. That is not to be confused with pushing your knees outward, because this is not external rotation. Twisting and opening up is external rotation, twisting out the whole way down. If I just were to push my knees out, I would still be here. That is jamming my femur up into my hip joint and closing off the ability to open my hips, stabilize my spine and my trunk, and then putting us into to a susceptible position that does not transfer force and bear load very well with the bar on our back and producing force pushing up on our trunk. So one way to attack this is to focus in on glute activation. You will see a lot of times when people hip hinge to go back in their squat, they are actually hip hinging and feeling movement, but it's not actually a hip hinge. It's actually movement coming from the lumbar spine. If you are in a neutral position and you try and hip hinge and push back and you go into a posterior pelvic tilt, this motion came from the lumbar spine. This is not hip hinging. This is allowing me to turn my glutes off the second I go into a posterior pelvic tilt. That is going to make it very difficult to keep that initiation of external rotation. Your glutes turn off, the external rotation goes away. So you need to, when you unwrap that bar, fire your glutes, keep them activated, and work on keeping your back and your hips moving together at the same time. Notice how my butt does not shoot back and out. This is not hip hinging. Your glutes stay activated, your hips and your back move together. Now I'm still engaged, I'm still twisting open, and then I can go down to my squat with a neutral spine, as opposed to having movement in my lumbar and then going down and not externally rotating because my glutes are now turned off. This is also going to play a big role in your eccentric of your squat. You want to use your glutes and hamstrings to take some of the strain off of your quads, okay? Once you get that energy and stretch in your glutes and hamstrings, it will throw all of that force during the concentric portion of your squat into your quads so they can do their job more efficiently. So, a few follow-up thoughts. One, we're not trying to push our knees out. We are trying to squeeze our glutes and keep them contracted the whole way down in our squat and coming back up, okay? Without glute activation and contraction, you cannot have external rotation. There will be no rotation of that hip joint without glute activation. So number one, I would say focus on glute activation. Secondly, really feel the bar and everything in between through your feet before you are ready to even stand up with the bar. Dave Tate talks about wedging into the bar and literally having it settle on you. That is having a connection with the bar and your feet and feeling everything in between. And then you should be able to feel yourself contracting your glutes and twisting into the floor like a screwdriver. That feeling should never leave. The second you feel it leave in your glutes and feel that rotation leave in your feet, you are probably not externally rotating anymore. If you need to break it down into sections, first break it down into glute activation. Make sure that you can activate your glutes properly. Secondly, break it down into being able to hip hinge without losing your ability to contract your glutes in that hip hinging position. If you guys have any more questions, you can hop on mbsfitness.net or you can comment below in the Elite FTS blog section on my blog. Thanks for watching.